As in the event that paying atonement for featuring in all 5, after, movies to date, a arrangement that's been criticized for glamorizing harmful, controlling connections a la Twilight and 50 Shades. Sometime recently Josephine Langford presently dallies on the quite wholesome side of sentimental complication in The Other Zoe. This harmless comedy, hinging on a gimmicky plot creation, doesn't rise above equation. Indeed, when it's winking at the clichés it caves to. Still, it's a wonderful sufficient redirection for those who need recognizable class beats sounded by the regular alluring on-screen characters within the standard appealing settings. That group of onlookers appears impossible to charge Brainstorm Media's constrained showy release on Friday, as this is often precisely the sort of comfort food passage one anticipates to stream at Domestic, an alternative arriving November 10th. Partitioning campus life inflexibly between eggheads and airheads, Matthew Tabak's screenplay places courageous woman Zoe Langford within the to begin with camp. She's a computer science major at Rulers College in Charlotte, presented humorlessly collapsing a classmate's introduction on St. Valentine and his spin-off occasion. Our courageous woman doesn't accept in sentimental cherish, as it were incompatibility as characterized by shared interface. Actually, she's made a matchmaking app to encourage such pairings. In spite of the fact that doesn't sound like much fun to her disinterested peers, counting something else strong flatmate L. Mallory Johnson. Zoe is so left-brained in her expository and entrepreneurial viewpoint, she barely takes note when a stray soccer ball brings star competitor Drew Starkey, regretfully into her orbit. He's charming, indeed flirty, but an clearly idiotic musclehead isn't what she's searching for. By differentiate, and frightfully like-minded address from Stranger Miles, Archie Renault unquestionably gets her beating. Shockingly, he vanishes sometime recently. She can present herself. A experience at the bookstore where Zoe works gives another cumbersome minute with Zach, who overlooks his credit card upon clearing out. Running to return it, she witnesses his bicycle getting hit by a car, rushing him to the asphalt. Once he comes to, with a concussion and a few short-term memory amnesia, he recognizes her as Zoe. Reasonable sufficient. It takes a whereas for her to realize he really considers she's a diverse Zoe, Maggie Thurman, the one he's as of now going out with. The perplexity gets increased by his guardians, Andy McDowell, Patrick Fabian, not having met that Zoe however, so they too botch this chance associate for his unused sweetheart. Our Zoe is upset in clarifying the mistake, until she makes a critical drive choice to let it ride a whereas longer, since she's found Miles, really a going by MIT grad student brainiac, is in fact Zach's cousin and current houseguest. Consequently, a trick winds up being acted out on a family skiing getaway she's all of a sudden welcomed on, which implies canceling a trip to see her possess recently divorced mother, Heather Graham. Exceptionally gentle entertainment follows, as Zoe demonstrates ill-fated on the slants, and in other ways doesn't live up to her charging. In the interim, Alterna Zoe, a deafening brat on getaway with her claimed guardians in Bermuda, battles in unsuccessful to contact trophy boyfriend Zach. Helpfully, he's been taboo from utilizing any screens, counting phones, whereas recuperating. Langford Zoe does demonstrate shockingly great at lexicon, math, chess, and other things that appropriately pull in Miles. But he does not turn out to be much of a capture after all. She's fair starting to realize how exceptionally decent, and indeed kinda keen, Zach himself is when the complete charade blows up in her confront. The ensuing last half hour is lovely cursory, with inevitable, walking around being sad, montages and such, went with by on-the-nose soundtrack choices. Those who anticipate a door to triumph for the fade-out are barely in for a shock. Still, indeed at its most commonplace, The Other Zoe has enough pluses to keep watchers sensibly redirected. Chief Sarah Zandia, whose earlier highlight, A Straightforward Wedding, 2018, advertised comparable admission in a more, My Huge Fat Greek Wedding vein of culture clash comedy, keeps up an exuberant pace that schemes past the material's common need of motivation. The shinning TVC is standard, separating as it were at a colorfully lit school dance climax, but reflexive, with North Carolina areas including a smidgen of territorial flavor. The veterans cast as guardians aren't given anything exceptionally curiously to do. Other supporting figures are for the most part one note, counting Olive Abercrombie as the inescapable sass-mouthed small sister to Zack. But Starkey is charming, his way as well as looks a bit reminiscent of both Dax Shepard and Owen Wilson. And Langford oversees to create the hero agreeable and persuading, in spite of not truly being composed as either. The film's best segment is when these two begin to warm up to each other, coming full circle in another repetition montage. However, the charming entertainers drum up sufficient chemistry to create it work. It's really baffling when plot mechanics must pry them separated, since we appreciate them getting a charge out of each other's company. Whereas it's inferred that love-hungry Elle does in fact get it on with a food delivery dreamboat, Jorge Lopez, the other Zoe, is for the foremost portion so cleaned of all racier perspectives to young adult life, it comes as a jar when precisely one F-bomb is dropped. Likewise, a passing reference to polyamory, a concept our courageous woman scowls upon, of course. She may be a math whiz, but she's not into that kind of condition.